Hi there. So I have a question. When I say I want to go home, what does that mean? Where does that mean? This is something that haunts many of us who are part of diasporas, um, but also those who have a history of being refugees, of being resettled in second, third countries. Those of us who have experienced forced mobility, whether internationally or within borders, as well as exile or sexile, right? And so someone actually asked me to write a paper proposal for a special issue all about home, and I've entitled it Home as Rupture and Suture, Diasporic Displacement, Poetic Memory and Body as Archive. This article explores the concept of home as a dispossessed, mutable and corporeal phenomenon, drawing on autobiographical and poetic works spanning decades of writing and lived experience, engaging with my first collection, under consideration currently, Words Sutures, which kind of spans 1992 to 2002, and the forthcoming manuscript Loop Vertigo. I trace recurrent motifs of home, house, homeland and homing desire. These motifs emerge alongside the lived realities of grief, youth homelessness, diasporic displacement and intergenerational colonial disinheritance. Through auto-theoretical reflection, I foreground first the mother's body as a tenuous space of home, and then I move towards the body in transition, mudança, Portuguese for shift or change, and the interplay between literal and psychic homelessness. The analysis also situates my positionality as an Anglo-Indian descendant who grew up, or was grown up upon, Noongar country in southwest Western Australia, part of a set of colonial transplants onto unceded land, and traces the legacies of colonial land dispossession, the damages and failures of settlement, and the racialized notions of family/breakdown. By treating poetic repetition, linguistic multiplicity, the Urdu Dilkusha, Portuguese mudança, and Noongar country names, and embodied memory as analytic tools, this article argues that home is both suture and site of unhomely hauntings. Hauntology for Derrida, actual ontology for First Nations where whites are ghosts, the real space invaders and body snatchers. It contends that diasporic, queer and intergenerational experiences of displacement can be understood as constitutive of epistemologies rooted, that is in terms of roots, not roots, ironically in affect, corporeality, refusal or encounter genealogical histories. Now, just very briefly, Dilkusha was the name that my great-grandmother, my great-aunt and great-uncles gave to, and my grandfather gave to a property that they bought through Midland Railway Company, which was headquartered in the UK as part of the, still part of the colonial project, even though it's within the remit of the Australian nation state, post-federation, because land was being parcelled up and sold off. It was largely unproductive land and they lost a lot of money. But they used the place name that they transferred from the context of colonial India, that is Dilkusha, the Urdu word meaning heart is happy, which was also a colony of Lucknow. Some of the family actually originated, in Anglo-Indian family originated also in Uttar Pradesh, not just in West Bengal, or the Bengal presidency as it is referred to then. So these sorts of transfers and transplants, which don't take, are really interesting in terms of what I refer to as forms of intergenerational displacement, possession and dispossession, all occurring at the same time that the larger project of colonial dispossession for First Nations people proceeds unhalted. But returning to this question of home in the body, home in the skin, home at home, yeah. This is something that dispossesses so many of us who are part of diasporic populations, and as I started off saying, may also have been resettled refugees. It becomes a perennial obsession as well, how to find home, how to set down roots, when we're actually peoples that have arrived through different kinds of routes, whether that be war, empire, and its aftermaths. And one of my best friends is part of that experience and dreamed constantly of having a home, right, of their own. Not a room of their own in Virginia Woolf's term, but a home of their own, because of their constant instability. As a child, also being in a second country refugee camp in Malaysia. So there are so many people that are referred to as rootless peoples, right? That doesn't mean we don't have roots. But, you know, I want to talk in this well, not in this talk. In this video, I want to talk about this, but in this paper, I want to explore, I guess, the contradictions of homing desires. Maybe even the impossibility of home. I definitely feel it a lot, like, to what am I oriented, to use Ahmed's term, in the influx of disorientations, where senses of belonging to the nation, being Australian, were also put into question. And I feel these things still, even if growing up in the context of incipient white multiculturalist Australia provided new kinds of repertoires or understandings in small town Perth, very white dominant, very homogenous at that time in the outer suburbs. Being asked who I was, where I came from, was actually a reality. So they're painful memories. Being treated as different. One of the ways in which that played out was in sport. Being told you're not like able to do this because you're a girl, and also asked if I was truly Australian, like where are you from? Being challenged on the sports field, humiliated by a teacher. And then there's all the displacements and movements of the first 10 years of my life, which were really formative. The insecurity, the economic insecurity, and being kind of part of a fugitive plan. That didn't stop. It also infused my early 20s, my teens, my early 20s, when I was getting away from abusive family dynamics. Naming it, but also having to pay the consequences for naming it and not having the support. I think for any one of us who are queer/trans, particularly in that era, these are vexed questions, I wanted to say. Vexatious and vexed questions. My name is Vec. Maybe that's where it comes from. Being constantly at a crossroads, and the fear of going home, to use Gloria Anzaldua's phrase, is, well, she premises that as being related to homophobia. And for me, it's trans and homophobia. But there wasn't a home. So where was I supposed to go to? There was no family home. We're not part of a landed, propertied class. That's constantly under displacement or erasure. So this is where it becomes difficult. Where is home? And my friend and I, we both share this characteristic, he being Vietnamese Australian and myself being Anglo-Indian Australian. Then my reflections, it causes a lot of angst and anxiety for many people. Here I just want to sort of body it forth and understand it more. And also be that person that can carry a sense of home on my back like a turtle. Because sometimes these questions can't be completely answered or even resolved, and even more so within a settler colonial context.